and welcome to the Priggya Arora show, where we discuss law, innovation, and entrepreneurship with people who have been there and done that. My name is Priggya Arora, an intellectual property lawyer from India, and our guest for today is Margeaux Thomas. She is an attorney at the Thomas Law Office PLC, and she's an expert in financial dispute resolution, business partnership dispute, and breach of contract matters. So, Margeaux, welcome on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, and thank you, Priggya, for having me here today.
Wow. So, Margot, let's start with your life story and how did you become the person today? Specifically, how did you enter into this field?
Didn't always know that I wanted to be a lawyer. I definitely thought I wanted to go into the Peace Corps or the Foreign Service were the two things that I was thinking about when I was going through college. But my father was a big proponent of education. He was an educator his entire life, and he, was of the belief that, having a law degree will open up a lot of doors, no matter, even if you don't want to go into law. And that is certainly true, something that I've come to understand in living in DC. You can throw a rock and hit a lawyer, but they're not always practicing lawyers. It does open up a lot of doors, and you see people with law degrees in a lot of different areas and professions. And I do feel like it opened up a lot of doors for me as well. I didn't end up getting an offer to a firm out of law school, and that got me into business litigation, and I've been there ever since.
Wow. It is fantastic to know, sometimes because of the parents, we get to do things which we are not sure of that we want to do in life or not.
Yes, that's exactly what happened here.
So Margot, because you are there in business, I'm sure you have seen a lot of business partnership contracts and the disputes between the partners. So probably we'll here discuss more about that. So in your experience, what are the common causes of these disputes between the partners when it comes to, specifically when it comes to technology kind of business or startups and things like that?
Say from a general nature, most of the disputes have to do with communication. And whether it's technology or who owns what, or who's coming to work on what day, or whatever the partnership issue is about, it usually boils down to communication about, who contributed what. Somebody usually feels taken advantage of in the situation, and that is a communication issue. I think it's the same as if you were in a family law dispute and we're going through a divorce. No matter what you're fighting about, it probably has something to do with a lack of communication or miscommunication about a fundamental thing that you believed was one way and the other person believes it is another way. So I think it all kind of boils down to that. With technology, I think it has the same themes as any other business dispute that we see. If you're fighting over a trademark or a website or intellectual property, it has the same core origins. And I think that a lot of that can be resolved through proper documentation.
Wow. So, Margot, as you just mentioned, that a lot of these disputes are because of communication, and people fight about what kind of contribution they make into the business. So, I'm sure there could be some examples of what can be incorporated in the partnership agreement so that, like you just mentioned, there can be a situation where we can avoid such kind of disputes, or at least have a remedy in case of whenever we have a dispute.
Yes, so a lot of small businesses, or when they start out small, it's usually someone that you know and trust, or a family member, is a majority of the ones that we handle. And even like with the Facebook, the Snapchat, it starts off with a couple of college friends and ends up being a billion-dollar company, but boils down to, I didn't think that we needed to document it on that level because it was somebody that, I knew, somebody that I trusted, somebody that's a family member. But, from my perspective, everything needs to be documented, and that will cut down on a lot of the miscommunications. It requires the owners to have conversations about distribution of equity, IP rights, roles and responsibility, death, we call it death, dismemberment and divorce. Like, what happens in these situations? Long-term company goals, things like that. I mean, all of that can be documented. And I think the biggest issue that you see when there's a lot of great ideas that go a long way is that when they started out and there wasn't a lot of money and, you know, it was just young kids with a great idea, they don't take the time to document that properly, and it can become a very expensive problem down the line.
Wow. So, Margot, you just mentioned, you just mentioned about Snapchat. So, can we discuss that case in detail? Like, what happened? How that dispute could have been avoided by having a proper agreement in place? And just briefly, I think it would be very interesting for the audience to know.
So the Snapchat dispute, there were 3 original founding members that I believe met in college. One of them got terminated or cut out the business pretty early. That one member, Reggie Brown, was supposedly the member that came up with the idea. But, you know, as we all say in business, it's, you know, 1% idea, 99% execution. There's a lot that goes on after you come up with that great idea to make not only the product, but to get people to buy the product and, you know, ensure that the product continues to develop and thrive. So he was cut out pretty early in the business. The business obviously is very popular and is worth billions of dollars now. He filed a lawsuit claiming that, you know, he has an interest in the company, in the equity of the company, because he was one of the founding members and is now only in a footnote as a founding member and has not been entitled to those distributions and profits. So I think that one of the key issues that case brings up is assigning IP rights to the entity. And we've had that come up in a number of our cases as well, because you'll assign, normally when small businesses come together and you have 2 or 3 people, you'll say, okay, you handle getting the website and you handle, you know, getting our insurance and you handle setting up payroll. So the person who goes to get, let's say, the website will put it in their own name, because, you know, the business entity might not even be formed yet, right? And when the business entity is formed later on, people won't even think about it. They'll just, you know, I did my part, I checked the box, the website is up. You know, that domain may be under their own personal information and have nothing to do with the business. And then they don't assign those rights to the IP, the website, the trademark, whatever, to the business. So now you have somebody who owns a trademark, not associated with the business, an individual who, you know, is on the domain for the website, also not associated with the business, which doesn't cause an issue until that person wants to leave. And then they say, well, the website's in my name, you know, or the trademark is in my name. And none of these IP rights have been assigned to the business. And I think that a lot can be resolved early on. You know, you can assign these different tasks to people, but you need to make sure that in your employment agreement or your operating agreement or, you know, whatever agreement that you have that is going to govern the relationship with the parties and the business entity, that business entity is going to own all of those things. And we specifically have had that issue come up because we were handling a case where that exact situation came. One of the business partners had set up the website, and when they left, in order to gain leverage and in a vindictive move against the other business partners who had put them out, I mean, she had all the access to the website and could go to the provider and take it down. That's exactly what she did. That caused a huge ripple effect for the business, which she wanted because she was no longer part of that business. And, you know, that is something that certainly needs to be dealt with on the front end. It's very similar to the Snapchat situation. Like, if somebody is going to claim ownership rights to a particular IP, that needs to be dealt with on the front end and assigned to the business so that they do not have that power and control down the line and can say that, you know, I contributed this and I need credit for it now.
Correct. I think, Margot, here I'll bring in 2 important points. One is that, you know, whenever we file intellectual property, we have to file assignment agreements in which an inventor assigns right to the company. And I think, as you mentioned, it is very important so that rights are with the company and not with any individual. So that is one important point. And another point, so another point which I wanted to mention is, like, we have a dispute between two people, and it's very important early on to understand the confidentiality clauses as well. for example, email IDs and passwords of a website is with one person and not as a trade secret of a company. That could cause a lot of trouble. Like you just gave an example, one employee can take the website down and the business ends. So I think that is also very, very important to have those confidentiality agreements and trade secret provisions in the agreements.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you see a lot of companies that have become very successful and have very few legal agreements governing the relationship. And, I certainly understand that because, like I said, a lot, you usually are partnering with somebody that you don't believe you need that, and you don't believe you need that. But in order, not only is it important for that relationship, even if it's thriving, but it's also important if you want to bring in third parties, or you want to bring in investors, or you want to scale the business and grow or become public one day. Those agreements are going to be very important. So it is good to have those in place no matter what.
Yeah, because I think at the initial stage, we do not see that our company is going to grow so much. And when the company grows at that point, these assignments also become very difficult to do for us lawyers, because you have to take care of so much things, and it's very, very easier to do at the initial stages.
Yes, that is very true. It's much easier to do at the beginning.
Yeah. So, Margeaux, let's discuss another case, which is the Apple dispute with GD Advanced Technology. So, I think we should throw some light on how that case led to the bankruptcy of GT Advanced Technology and what happened there, so that we can get some idea of the business disputes as well.
I think one of the key issues there is the discussion of how do we avoid disputes between business partners escalating, and how do we keep them from becoming tens of thousands of dollars disputes where everybody lawyers up and the case goes on for years. And I personally have always been a big proponent of mediation and alternative dispute resolution. I think that's something that should be in every contract, every operating agreement, every shareholder agreement, every employment agreement. I think that those clauses will save so much money. I'm not so much a fan of arbitration specifically, but I do think that mediation is a great avenue to avoid a lot of conflicts escalating, and having some agreement on the forefront that there's a condition precedent to going to litigation, that the parties are required to come to the table and try to make a good faith effort to resolve the dispute before going to court or before filing anything, I think is really a game changer when it comes to these agreements. And I can tell you that the number of agreements that have mandatory mediation clauses is very low. A lot of agreements have mandatory arbitration clauses. You see that all the time. But I think that a lot of people are not aware that those arbitration clauses are not mediation. Arbitration normally costs a lot more than even litigation. And especially when you get into cases that have three arbiter panels.
Correct.
And the arbitration fees are very high. It becomes very expensive very quickly when people put in routine, drop in arbitration clauses, thinking that that is going to resolve the dispute inexpensively. But in practice, it's usually the opposite.
Correct. I think very rightly said. People generally they don't give any importance to mediation clauses, but a person sitting with two parties and solving the case would be much faster than it going into especially 3-person arbitration or the courts. So I think that is a very well introduced point, and we should throw some light on mediation and have those clauses in place so that at least some kind of petty disputes can be resolved very, very quickly.
Yeah, we've had a lot of situations where we've done mediation before a lawsuit was even filed, and we were able to resolve the dispute that early. So, I think that people are skeptical that mediation can be that effective that early, but I think that it can if you have the right mediator. And I think that's important. But, if the parties are interested and really are good faith working to resolve the agreement, I think it can be very effective very early on and save a lot of time and money.
Yeah.
going forward.
Interesting. So, Margot, what do you think, like, what would be the future of law and technology, continue, how will they continue to evolve in future for, especially from the perspective of business partnership? Because every startup at the end is a, partnership of people, and that goes along with technology. So how do you think they'll continue to evolve?
IP rights are going to obviously continue to advance and be the forefront of a lot of these agreements. A lot of the business partnerships disputes are going to revolve around IP issues. I mean, they already do to an extent, but I think that that can only increase because, IP has taken over, especially with, advancements in technology. I think a lot more is going to have to do with websites and trademarks and copyrights and patents than a lot of tangible products that we used to see. Today we have a monthly lunch at our firm, and we have a topic that we talk about, and AI is the topic for today, and ChatGPT, and just seeing how that has affected the legal industry and contract drafting, in a short time has just been fascinating to me. So I'm interested to learn a little bit more about that today. But I think that's definitely the wave of the future, and that's something that's going to have to be incorporated into or something that lawyers are going to have to think about, because a lot more is being done in the AI space, and there are going to be ownership issues with that, and how we distinguish or how we memorialize that is going to be very interesting.
Absolutely. I also feel that there are going to be a lot of ownership issues in the future, especially with AI coming up. Half of the technology which is being developed is through AI. So God knows who is the inventor, and AI is still not recognized as inventor in many, many jurisdictions.
Yes. Yes, that is going to be a complex issue that is going to be at the forefront very soon.
So, Margot, now we'll come to your life, and I'll ask you 3 questions and answer them very, very quickly. So, what are the 3 things you are grateful for?
I'm certainly grateful for family. I don't think I would have started this firm without the support of my family. And I've just learned so much from them. I'm grateful for sports. They've taught me a lot about life and life lessons, and a lot of my core values are rooted in sports. And what else? I'm grateful for this career. I really love the law. I like the people that I've been able to meet and interact with. I've found mentors and friends and colleagues, and I've grown so much just through working in this industry, and I think I owe a lot to those people and this environment.
So the next question is, what are 2 traits that you think are useful for a good business partner?
2 traits that are helpful for a good business partner. Others are hard for me. There's this saying, what got you here won't get you there. I think that there's one aspect of being a entrepreneur that allows you to take the risk to get out there and do things on your own, but there's another part that allows you to be able to delegate and lead a team. And I truly believe that being able to attract, train, and retain good talent is really the key to being a successful entrepreneur. So I think that there's a shift between what we can do on our own and what we can do with a team of people. And that trait is really key to, honing that trait is really key to being successful in that field. And I think that's across the board. All the entrepreneurs that I've seen, those who have been able to build a team and become a leader and manage and be able to manage a team, is really where success lies. I think just thinking out the box is probably the second one. And that, seems kind of cliche to an extent, but it is very easy to just continue down the path that we have been on and not question why or how we can do things differently. It takes a lot of courage to come up with something different and be a proponent and be able to see something that other people can't and believe in it wholeheartedly. And I think that is an amazing trait, and to see it in leaders and innovators.
Wow, awesome. I think that's a very, very good answer that there has to be an ability to think out of the box, and there has to be an ability to build a team. Then only a good business partner or a good entrepreneur can succeed in business. So, one aspiration you have for the future?
I would like to grow Thomas Law specifically. We do work in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I'd like to become a regional firm. I'd like to add more attorneys, specifically some that's focused on the IP elements that some of our clients are dealing with. A lot of our clients are dealing with, and inevitably will have to deal with. So just growing the firm, scaling it, bringing in people that share our core values, and seeing where that leads us.
Wow. I think you used a very interesting word, core values, and it is very, because we are also business owners of running our own firm. So those value system is also very, very important. Then only, there is an alignment in an organization.
Than skill sets in many senses of the word, because I like to work with people that I know and trust, and that I think that will do the people who will do the right thing when nobody's looking. And I like to surround myself with those type of people. I like to work with them. I like to be friends with them. And I think that's important, that other business owners also surround themselves with people that think like them in that respect.
So, Margeaux, that was all for today. But any final thoughts you have for our audience before we conclude this podcast?
No, I mean, I think the overarching theme of the discussion today is just to get it in writing. I think that a couple $1,000s on the front end will save tens of $1,000s on the back end. And I think it's a really simple, very simple agreements can be put into place at the beginning of a partnership, and can protect a number of things, including IP. So that's my biggest takeaway today is just to get it in writing.
Get everything in writing, and I support Margeaux from the bottom of my heart, because it is very, very important. I know it's a bit difficult to understand why we keep saying that at the initial stages of business it is important, but like she said, it can avoid millions of dollars at a later stage. So have some courtesy towards it, spend some money, and get everything in writing when you start your own business. So, Margeaux, that's all for today. Anything you want to say to conclude?
No, I mean, if anybody has any further questions, I'm happy. I love this field. I love to talk about it. If you have any questions or want to reach out, my phone number is 703-957-2577, or you can reach me via email. I'm very responsive to email, and thomas@thomaslawplc.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Margeaux, for being on the show, and we'll continue to have a discussion with you in future as well.
Thank you for having me.
Hey there, thank you for attending today's session. If you enjoyed the session, do follow our channel and consider sharing it with a friend. My name is Priggya Arora, daughter of inspiring parents, alumna of IIT Kharagpur, engineer turned lawyer and entrepreneur, and now founder of PA Legal, where we help creators and innovators protect their intellectual property. Thank you.